I would love for you to share, just your own experience with shamanism and what got you reaching out to me in the first place.
Okay. Well, I mean, first, for me personally, on my own individual spiritual journey, um, I started off in the Judeo-Christian tradition and getting to studying the teachings of Jesus in particular. That's how it all started for me. So, and I still, as I've said, is very much a follower of Jesus. I mean, I'm just really intimately drawn to the manifestation of the divine in Jesus. But that's not to the exclusion of anything else. And I don't see anything in Jesus's teachings that say that means you can't appreciate truth wherever it's found. In fact, the opposite. So I've, always just been kind of a sponge in wanting to understand religious truth in other traditions, and to my delight have found, the more I've studied other traditions, that there are core truths that run through them all, like love, mercy, kindness, compassion, justice, all of that, and integrity, honoring the earth, despite some misunderstandings of Christian teachings about that. But we share those things, and then again, the biggest one being love at the core of those. So I'm always just looking in other traditions for where those things are present. So when I stumbled onto shamanism myself about 7 or 8 years ago now, I was just drawn to the presence of those things in the shamanic traditions and in some of the practices, the journeying, and it all just dovetailed for me beautifully with my understanding of Christianity. And I found, the Christ, as I would understand it, or the divine, all over the shamanic traditions, and it was just nothing but beautiful to me. So there was deep resonance, is just another way of saying it, in deep calling to deep truth, seeing truth, love, recognizing love. And then another thing that's very important to me is just for Christians to own our horrific history when it comes to the fact that we have dishonored other traditions and have a lot of blood on our hands, to be blunt. And the ways in which we have treated pagan traditions and co-opted their celebrations and not been honest about it, all of that. So when I met you, or we found each other, I said, here is a beautiful opportunity for us to bring the light-centered, right down to the solstice, right? I mean, our love for the light, to bring that together and to try to start bringing some healing to this painful history, and to stand together and to celebrate the things that we share in common from our traditions. And the more common ground we find, that always leads to higher ground. And so it's just a win-win thing. But I think it's very important for the church to acknowledge where we've been wrong historically and to seek some forgiveness, but to do better. And so in our own little humble way, in these celebrations that we're sharing, we're saying, hey, what we have in common is way more important than any differences between us. And it's just a beautiful win-win thing when we do.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. You're just kind of making me feel like maybe I should explain a little bit about how it came to be, of like me being excited to collaborate with you too.
Yeah, you probably have a more apologizing to your friends than I do. It's like, oh man, because people are like, what in the world are you doing with the church, right?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. So I have written about this. I put it out on social media and on my website, and I'll put a link of that too, just to not get too much into the story. But there was some pain, some wounding when I was really little for myself and my mom with the church and that sort of thing. And so really early on, I was like, that place is not for people like us. So when my husband and I moved in together, and we're getting serious right before we got engaged, we traveled to Peru together, spent some time with shamans, and both kind of on the path. And then he explored some other spiritualities that were all kind of contingent to shamanism, and then was feeling called back to Christianity. So I was like, what is going on? It was pretty hard, honestly. And I've been a little more open about that recently, because I think it's important for people to hear, because I know that there's other people like us too, you know, couples that find themselves in two different boats at some point with spirituality. And so we've really found our way with it. But there was a stretch of time where it was really painful for both of us. And I think we were both questioning, like, can we make this work? Like, we try to have conversations and it ended in these like huge arguments. And so we were working with this Gottman therapist. I don't know if you're familiar with the Gottman therapy. It's a pretty cool model to support people in relationships. It was kind of funny because the whole way that they got started with their therapy was they were studying couples. Like, they put a couple in an apartment for like a weekend or a week or something, and they'd have them hooked up to all these like heart monitors and things, and like video recording like their conversations and stuff. And so they could predict if that couple is going to stay together or not by finding these patterns. And it got to the point for us where we're like, do we just need to go sit in that apartment so they can tell us if we should quit? Which I can laugh about now, because I'm like, oh my gosh, we made it through, and my husband is amazing, and I love and adore him so much. And it's actually been such a gift that we are on these two different paths now, because I think it's opened us both up in ways that we would have never experienced if we were with someone so similar to ourselves. So anyway, just wanting to move through that in a better way and wanting to understand him was, I think, the first piece that got me to think like, okay, well, you might have it kind of wrong with the judgment that I was holding for religion because of how I was hurt from it when I was younger. And then the timing was just perfect that you and I met, and just the conversations that we were having. And I remember the first time we met, as I was like, well, this is my experience and this is what I believe, and like not wanting to hold back, wanting to make sure like, okay, this is really going to be a good fit and I don't have to tiptoe around. And you were just so welcoming with open arms, and I'm like, okay, there's something here that I need to learn, I need to integrate. But for the most part, the most of what I see when I think about, you know, what my husband is doing with his church or my friends or you or whatever is like how similar we are. Like, we want the same things, right? We want everyone to be treated fairly, kindly, with love and respect. We want safety and abundance and shelter and health and good food and water for everyone. And, you know, we might be all taking like different roads to that or have different beliefs or perspectives, but really at the core, like, we're good people that want to do good things and want to spread goodness in the world. So that's what has gotten me really excited about working with you and working with other people too that can kind of align with what I'm doing.
Beautiful. Yeah, I bet what you just said will be meaningful for a lot of people to hear. And yeah, and for me, I mean, it really comes down as simple as it is just plain obvious to me, and I think to just about anybody who meets you, you know, that you are full of love and full of goodness and kindness, and that takes, I mean, that points to the presence of God in you, the divine in you. Spirit, use whatever word. I don't think the big love cares what word we use. Yeah. You know, but that radiates and shines through you. That's all I need to know. And the rest is details around the edges, but the center is very obvious.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that, Bryan. Thank you for sharing that.